it's not too late for you as well to get out from some players that you just don't think have it anymore. You want to try to cash in and maximize value while you can. But who are you selling first? And of course, why? And most importantly, what for?
All right. Well, first of all, I am selling Stefon Diggs, one of the players that was mentioned by our Discord, asking for advice on what to do with Stefon Diggs. I'm selling Stefon Diggs. Look, he's on a 1-year deal after he got moved on from the Bills, who said, "Hey, we don't need this guy anymore. He's got a huge cap hit. He's not going to be worth it. Let's give him to the Texans and move on with our lives." So the Texans picked him up. I think he's a great 1-year rental for them. I think even in fantasy football, he's a really good 1-year rental if you're a contending team. I don't see any reason why he couldn't put up a top 24 season. I think Nico Collins is the guy there, and that's part of what plays into this. But I still think Stefon Diggs is going to be very productive this year. But after that, he's already 30 years old. He's on this 1-year deal. He's going to be hitting the open market as a 31-year-old wide receiver. I don't think that's going to equate to a lot of success or opportunity where he's going to continue what we've seen in the past. Capped by the Nico Collins breakout, who was a top 12 wide receiver last year. As good as Diggs has been, he has never eclipsed 3 yards per route run, Mike. And Nico Collins did that last year with 3.11 yards per route run. Also, to go back and look at what Stefon Diggs at the end of last season did, which unfortunately was a lot of nothing. Stefon Diggs had 100 yards in 5 of his first 6 games last year. And then after week 6, never broke 100 yards again. Kind of fell off. Started out the first 6 games, 102 yards in the first game, 66 week 2, but then 111, 120, 121, 100. It was looking good. But then after that, multiple games under 30 yards, multiple games under 50 yards. It just was not able to reproduce that, really fell off. And I think going to the Texans is good for him. I think, like I said, he's going to be productive this year, but not someone I'm investing into at this point, and someone I'm looking to sell if I can get a guy like Christian Kirk and DeAndre Swift. Those guys I'm always going after right now. Moving Stefon Diggs for a younger wide receiver in the same tier, I think is a smart move right now.
And you know what? I'm going to take Christian Kirk, and I'm probably going to take DeAndre Swift too. We're talking about an aging veteran wide receiver getting a little bit younger with Christian Kirk. He's established in that offense. I think Christian Kirk has a big bounce back year. I've been pretty vocal about that. And DeAndre Swift, but I think DeAndre Swift is going to have a good year out there in Chicago as well. So I love both of those values. But I am also selling DeAndre Swift's teammate, and that's Chicago Bears wide receiver Keenan Allen. He's 32, and he's not played a full season since 2019. So believe it or not, he's coming into an offense with more wide receiver competition that he had in Los Angeles. He's got Rome Odunze, and I know he's a rookie, but still. And DJ Moore compared to Josh Palmer, who we all like, but who's never really been a stud, even though I'm in on him, and Quentin Johnston. And look, I understand Caleb Williams is being touted as a generational quarterback prospect. The reality of the situation is we have not seen him take an NFL snap yet. Therefore, going from Justin Herbert to Caleb Williams at this point in time can be considered a downgrade. We know what Justin Herbert could do in the NFL. We don't know what Caleb Williams can do in the NFL.
He would also have to do a lot to even match what Justin Herbert has done at this point.
That is true. Let's not forget, Justin Herbert does have a season where he threw for over 5,000 yards. That is not easy to do, throwing for 5,000 yards. I believe only a handful of quarterbacks have done it. You could move him right now for players he's valued around, such as Romeo Doubs, Zach Charbonnet, Josh Downs. That's where his value lies, mid to late second. Here's one that I like. What would you do? Keenan Allen in a third for Chris Godwin?
I think that's intriguing. I'm actually buying back into Chris Godwin now that they've talked about moving him back into the slot. I think it's going to be a really good spot for him.
I agree.
So I am kind of buying into Chris Godwin. I would like to see if I can just do a swap. I might even be able to get Chris Godwin in a third for Keenan Allen for a team that's contending and maybe is a little burned on Chris Godwin, even though he performed just fine last year. Godwin's always been undervalued. I used to undervalue him a ton, but I think I've come around to him a little bit at this point. So Keenan Allen, it depends on your league, I think, because some people are still going to look at Keenan Allen as a really good contending piece and not want to move on from him for cheap, or they will want to, buy him for someone like Chris Godwin because they're looking at Keenan Allen, who's coming off a career year, mind you, which is kind of crazy. It's really going to depend on the owner and what their team's looking for when you're shopping Keenan Allen around.
So I'll definitely make that move. If I could do it straight up, I gladly would, for sure. So Nate, who is your next sell? Oh, well, What a shocker.
Yeah, we got the guy with the two like totally different legs, Christian Watson, who had 20% difference in his hamstring mass between his two legs. That's what they're saying is the reason for the hamstring injuries.
Wow.
Apparently, he has addressed it going to, I believe, the University of Wisconsin or something like that to address these issues and to have it studied. So there's all this hype piece right now going around. Oh, Christian Watson, he had this crazy thing going on with his hamstrings, but it's fixed now. Don't worry. He's never going to have a hamstring injury again. He'll be good. There is a physical therapist on Twitter who I do trust, and it's not Jeff Mueller. I always point him out, but there's a physical therapist in that kind of circle that did not have very positive things to say about Christian Watson and his work ethic going to those hamstring sessions, going to PT this offseason, not showing up sometimes, not being really committed to that. So be careful with the hype pieces. That hype piece, though, gives us a great opportunity to sell Christian Watson. Look, there is a lot of competition in that wide receiver room, in that receiver room in general, because you also have Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft in the tight end room, who are great tight ends themselves so far through their rookie year. You also got Josh Jacobs, who's caught a lot of passes in his career. Marshawn Lloyd as well, who's a good pass catcher coming out of college. I would be looking to move Christian Watson right now. He's the 7th most traded player over the past week, according to Dynasty Daddy. And even when he is healthy, I know he has been productive, but I don't want a player that struggles with health and is in a crowded wide receiver room when he's missing games, missing practices. Those other guys, Romeo Doubs, one, of course, but also Dontavian Wicks, those guys have really showed out last year. And if they're continuing to improve and using that time that Christian Watson is not on the field to have that connection with Jordan Love, it's open competition right now. And when you're missing out, you're behind. Christian Watson, he's behind in that open competition from last year. If it continues to this year, he'll be behind even more. I don't want that headache. I'd much rather have one of those other guys or just move on from Christian Watson. I'll go after DeAndre Swift again with Christian Watson. Or if I want to go to a different wide receiver, Christian Kirk again, Terry McLaurin is someone else. Or Mike, even this, I would move Christian Watson for Stefon Diggs right now, the guy I was selling in the last segment, because if I'm a contending team, Christian Watson isn't really going to help me out that much. I don't believe in his long-term viability as well. So I would much rather move Christian Watson for Stefon Diggs, plug in a top 24 wide receiver into my lineup this year, and reap the benefits.
I'm in on DeAndre Swift too. I'm in on Christian. I've been in on Christian Kirk. I do think the closer we get to the season, the harder it's going to be to buy Christian Kirk a little bit. Terry McLaurin, I feel like you might be able to move Christian Watson and maybe get something on top of Terry McLaurin. I
Which
just
is
think
ridiculous. Christian Watson should, I believe, he's like top. I think he's like wide receiver 34. I think last time I checked on Keep Trade Cut, which is way too high.
let's talk about another player that I'm selling. So I did say that I liked him, but you want to try to sell at maximum value sometimes. That's Detroit Lions running back David Montgomery. He is aging. He's 26. He's so old. But he's got a lot of touches, 1,305 career touches, Nate. So the tread is dwindling on the tires. That's how it goes. The tread goes down the more you drive. Gibbs is there, and I think before long, it's his team or David Montgomery gets replaced to be the 1B. Gets replaced, and the new guy that's in will be the 1B. Now, he is signed through 2025. 26 is a void year, however. Guaranteed salary for 25 is zero. And the Lions could save $4.875 million by cutting him. Right now, he is valued around players such as Deontay Johnson, Evan Ingram, if you need a tight end, Najee
Great
Harris
value.
as well. Also around a mid-second. Here's a trade I saw. David Montgomery in a second for DeAndre Swift in a fourth. I know what side you're on.
Uh,
Come on.
yeah, I don't know about that. I don't. I think David Montgomery, like I talked about in the last podcast, I think he's going to be around a little bit. With either on the Detroit Lions or somewhere else. I think he's going to be around for a couple more years. I would move Najee Harris for David Montgomery at this point. I would move a mid-second for David Montgomery. I would probably move DeAndre Swift in the fourth. Yeah, because I'd rather have the second. I think that's what does it for me.
Yeah.
If it was Swift in a third for Montgomery in a second, I'd probably just call it toss up there. But the fourth isn't doing anything for me, so I'd rather have. I'm basically looking at that as David Montgomery in a second for DeAndre Swift, which at that point, just value-wise, I'll take.
We could also say I think DeAndre Swift is going to have less competition for touches, but I think
Good.
David Montgomery's touches will be better touches than what DeAndre Swift will get. I think the Lions offense will be better than the Bears offense this year. Although the Bears, they're on the uptick. Nate, who is your last sell of the evening?
Yeah, so we are past the rookie draft. All the rookies have spots, and a lot of people have already had the rookie draft. So the rookies are now options to sell before it's too late. And I'm saying Adonai Mitchell because looking at his value right now, his ADP is early second for some people. And for me, that is just way too overvalued. He did fall out of the top 50 picks. So I think he was 51, so it's not too far. But there's a lot of mouths to feed over there with the Indianapolis Colts. And Michael Pittman Jr. is a target hog. Had the fourth highest target share of any player last year at the wide receiver position, 30.5%. He gets a lot of the targets there. Josh Downs there, who was targeted on 20.2% of the downs that he played. Okay. And then the year before that, they drafted Alec Pierce. I know Adonai Mitchell is going to be above Alec Pierce, but Alec Pierce still runs one of the best go routes in the NFL for that role. So he's still going to be a part of this offense. He's not just going to fade into obscurity as a wide receiver 4. He's still going to be the field stretcher for this team. He's still going to run go routes. He's still probably going to end up with 400 yards or something like that. So there's a lot of mouths to feed. I think Adonai Mitchell is a great NFL pick for this team. They surround Anthony Richardson with more wide receiver talent. But fantasy football-wise, he's a wide receiver 3 on this team. Target-wise, I would expect, especially this year as a rookie. And I just don't see the value of holding at this point. If you really love Adonai Mitchell and believe him, I think you can get him later, mid-season, for probably a late second, like a 25 late second. I think you'll probably have no problem making that happen. I don't think he's set up in a position to break out anytime early in his rookie season. Right now, when he's being valued as someone who has opportunity right away, he does not. Just because he had the first round hype before the draft does not mean that he's still valued accordingly at this point. So, I would love to move Adonai Mitchell right now for George Kittle, who was last year's tight end 5. He's only 30 years old. We've seen Travis Kelce perform extremely well into his 30s, and he just signed a 2-year extension. I'm not worried about George Kittle being 30 years old. Derrick Henry, Zamir White, some running backs I would love to move Adonai Mitchell for right now. If you're a contending team, you're going to do a lot more for you than Adonai Mitchell. And going to other wide receivers, I'll bring up 2 guys we talked about already. Chris Godwin and Deontay Johnson, 2 wide receivers that I think are undervalued right now. Going over Dynasty Daddy, I was looking at trades for Adonai Mitchell. I saw multiple trades where Adonai Mitchell was going for a 25 first. I don't know if you can pull that off. If you can, you're a very lucky person. I would love to make that move as well.
I would too. And, I'm agreeing with this, with all of this. George Kittle, sign me up. Derrick Henry, Zamir White, even though it's, we'll talk about Derrick Henry in a minute, but Zamir White, I think you could probably move AD Mitchell and get Zamir White plus right now. Because I feel like people are kind of meh. They're in, but they're cautiously in on Zamir White. And Chris Godwin, yes. Deontay Johnson, yes. If you get a 25 first, man, for AD Mitchell.
It's not that I dislike Adonai Mitchell. I mean, I don't love the situation he's in because I think there's a lot of mouths to feed. But this is purely just because he is way too overvalued at this point. Like, there's so much hype around a player that hasn't even stepped on the field yet. It's not set up for success, opportunity-wise, early. Let's keep our expectations where they should be.
We still don't know what a full season of Anthony Richardson looks like yet either. I really want to see that. I'm not here to bash Anthony Richardson. I just want to see what a full season looks like, and then that will help us to really accurately gauge the value of all these Indianapolis Colts players. I mean, we know what Jonathan Taylor is going to be. He's a running back. He's their 1A, 1A, we could even say there. So as I alluded to before, I'm selling Baltimore Ravens running back Derrick Henry. Nate, I'm sorry, but the tread. 2,185 career touches. This man has been through it, and we're talking about a guy who the first 2 years in the league, the Titans didn't know what to do with him. I do think he's going to have a good year. I'll say that. This is probably going to be his last good year. He's a player you're selling for good value. He's productive when healthy. He's been fairly healthy throughout his career. 280 rushes last year, 1,167 yards and 12 touchdowns. I don't know if he's going to be as heavy on the touchdowns this year, not with Lamar Jackson there. Maybe it's more along the lines of Zay Flowers. Mark Andrews, of course, gets a lot of targets in the red zone as well.
Gus Edwards had a lot of touchdowns last year.
Right now, his value is right around Joe Mixon, who I know you're out on, but I'm pretty in on this year. Javonte Williams. I guess I'll be the Javonte Williams guy of the pod crew. And Zamir White, although I think Derrick Henry should be ranked higher than Zamir White. Pick-wise, it's like an early-ish to mid-second, 204 to 207, right around there. Some trades that I saw, Derrick Henry for the 111, another one for the 112. And here's an interesting one, too. If you're selling, Derrick Henry for Zamir White in a second. It's another one
that hate that.
Me. No, that intrigues me. I like that. Now, that is for if I somehow have Derrick Henry and I'm rebuilding. I think that's a better move to make. If I'm contending, I think I'll just keep Derrick Henry because you know what you're going to get from him. Zamir White, like I said, we're all in, but cautiously. We're hoping for good things, but we haven't seen it yet.
You know, I like Derrick Henry a lot this year. I think he's going to be very productive, but he is 30 years old. He is an older guy with a lot of touches in his career. So, you know, and he's unfortunately a Raven now, which means he's going to tear his ACL before week 1 because that's just what happens to Ravens running backs. But if he's healthy, he'll score a lot of fantasy points.
Hey, don't forget, we're giving away a free 1-week trial of our Discord, patreon.com/Dynasty Rankings. The link is down below. But until next time, for Nate, I'm Mike. Thanks for listening, everybody.